what's up, you guys, and welcome back into a Catholic perspective. Today, I'm going to be talking about the differences between the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker and the movie and its connection to our regular life and our faith. If you're looking more for a spoiler cast on my thoughts on the movie, that is available on the podcast, episode 169. And obviously, there are going to be spoilers here because I'm going into some details from the movie and the book. You've been warned. Here we go. So I have 5 thoughts. My first one is just the difference between a book and a movie. So the movie was 2 hours and 22 minutes long. The book, the audio book, so it being read to me, was 9 hours and 36 minutes long. Now, I'm not the best mathematician, but I would say that that's at least 5 more minutes of content there. So there's obviously more in the book than in the movie. This was my primary problem with the movie. I liked it overall, but there were certain things like kind of the biggest deal, the big bad. How is Palpatine back? They didn't explain it. They didn't talk about it. And in the book, they do. Right from the beginning, my theory going into the movie was correct. Palpatine's a clone. He is a clone of himself. So did Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, actually kill Sheev Palpatine? He did. But Palpatine learned from his master, Darth Plagueis, like they were constantly looking for a way to live forever. So he cloned himself, and he was able to move his life force from his dying body into this new clone, which is how he survived and how he's even back. Now, this is the thing that kind of frustrates me. Now we're getting kind of into 1 and 2, and I'm pushing the 2 together. I'm not very good at numbering things. I already talked about the math thing, but there's 2 things here. One, there's always more to the story that we can know, that we can learn. So the whole idea of the book being over 3 times as long as the movie, like obviously there's some things like you have to describe the scenery and stuff, so the book's going to be longer. But there were a ton of things just in the book that weren't in the movie. And the whole Palpatine question really bothered people. So how I'm like comparing this is like, this would be like trying to live your life as a Christian by only going to church. You're going to learn stuff, but how long do they really have to teach? At the homily, the sermon, they're going what, 8, maybe 12 minutes if they're long-winded? Like, there's not a ton of content you can get there. That's like going to the theater and watching the movie. Watching the movie and going to the match are the same thing. It's an analogy. Calm down. Okay. But like, we are called to constantly be in prayer and growing in our faith. So Monday through Saturday, are we continuing to grow in our faith? That's like going deeper. That's essentially what I did with the book, right? I wanted to know more because I care about Star Wars. I really do. But just the same with our faith, it's like, am I diving more into topics that I have questions about, that I want to know about? Am I reading my scriptures? That's the parallel there. But then we get into this thing called mystery. You know, there's this idea that a mystery is something that we can't know. When we come to the Catholic Church's understanding of mystery, it's something that we can know things about, but we can't know everything about, right? This is why the quote-unquote mystery of how Palpatine was, it frustrated people because we felt like we could know more and should know more, and we could have because in the novelization, they told us that he was a clone. But because like we are people that enjoy finding out truth, seeking truth, and like in real mystery. So the idea of like the Trinity. The Trinity, we can learn things about and know more about and grow in our knowledge and understanding of the Trinity, but we're never going to completely understand how God is 3 persons in one God. Like there's still a mystery to it, but we can get closer and closer through these revealed truths, through the church's teachings, through the writings of saints and all of these things, but we can't know everything about it. But we are people that likes knowing things and likes being able to learn the new things, and having the book months after the movie came out, revealing probably the biggest reveal of the movie that should have been in the movie. It was kind of frustrating. So not knowing things can be frustrating. So if there's something that you don't understand about the church, or something that you don't know about the church, something you might not even like about the church, like try to research that, find more information, to take the same kind of frustration we had with a few things in the movie, apply that to our faith so we actually can grow in our knowledge for God and our knowledge of the church. Because like I had a professor in school that always told me every new thing we learn about God is another reason to love him. Okay, so number 3/2, if we're counting wrong. Number 3, This was one thing that I wasn't sure was in the movie. I couldn't remember. I've only seen it once. I saw it in the theaters, and I read the book. So either it wasn't in the movie, or it stuck out to me more experiencing the story the second time because I knew how it ended, right? So at the end, there's the big thing where Rey is asked, "Who are you?" And she says, "Rey what?" And she says, "Rey Skywalker," right? And there's a point when they go to the planet where they find Lando Calrissian. In the book, there's this little girl that walks up to her and says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Rey." She says, "Rey who, or Rey what?" And she doesn't answer. She says, "Just Rey." And I thought this was really interesting because at the end, we know that she says Rey Skywalker. Even though that's not who she is by birth, we find out that she is a Palpatine. But the whole story of Rey is figuring out who she is. She doesn't know who she really is. She's trying to find her parents because she doesn't know who she is. And then she gets picked up by the rebellion. She doesn't really know who am I. She's constantly kind of going back and forth. Like she even pulls, like she tries to pull a Luke. And she's like, "I'm just going to leave. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do or what I'm going to be. I'm just going to remove myself from the situation." But then by the end, we see that there is this big difference, that she knows who she is. She's the hero. She's a Skywalker. So, like, obviously, like, whenever we're baptized, we take a new name, right? And we hear this thing all the time, that, like, we are chosen son and daughter of God because of our baptism, because he loves us. And yet so often we don't really feel that, like, really inside of us, right? So we can a lot of us can kind of feel like Rey all through the movies. Well, maybe not as cool, but like this whole, like, who am I? Like, where do I come from? What is my purpose? What am I doing? What am I supposed to do? And like, she was walking with the Skywalkers the whole time. Luke and Leia were the two people that trained her, and she's like, "This is who I am. I'm a hero. I'm going to be the next wave of Jedi. I'm going to be the last Jedi that restarts something, that restarts this new group of heroes." So I just found it fascinating that she said she knew who she was by the end. And like that's the goal for me, and I hope the goal for you watching is that we can, these things that we hear, that God really loves us and we are chosen and we are his and we are loved and we are forgiven. Like those things I hope really set in for us to where when somebody asks us, "Who are we?" we can really mean it when we're like, "I'm a child of God, I'm loved." And we can like really mean that inside more than just saying it outside. Okay. Number 4. Now, this is a huge difference that I really liked from the books. The difference from the movie is that every time we see Rey and Kylo come together in the movie, we only see their interactions and we can kind of guess how they're feeling from their facial expressions. But all of their primary meetings in the book, we get to go into the minds and the hearts and hear the feelings and thoughts of Rey and Kylo as they're facing off with one another. The first time this happens is that big scene where Kylo is flying through on his plane or in his ship, and Rey is on the sand and just waiting for him. Right, it's the whole scene where she flips over him and all these things. All before that and during that and the fight that ensues after, we get to hear the conflict in their minds and in their hearts, like. And they really want to be with the other one. They really love the other person. They really desire for them to come to their side so that they can be together. We see this again when they fight on the Death Star. They both, like, on the outward appearance, they're just fighting each other. And fighting each other with light swords is like, I want death for the other person. But really, internally, the whole time, they're like, I love this person. I want to be with this person. And I just thought it was fascinating because on the outside it looks terrible, but internally, like what they're saying internally isn't matching what they're doing externally. And I think so often I find myself in situations where it's like I'm feeling one thing and saying another, right? Like we can find ourselves in that situation, or we can see the actions of somebody else towards us and assume they're thinking something terrible when really. They could be like Rey and Kylo in this situation where it's like, I really care about the other person and I want to be with them, I want to love them, but my outward actions aren't saying that. And if one of them would have just been open and shared that, it could have changed a lot of things, and that happens at the end, but it's kind of too late for one of them at the time. Okay. So like just application, it's like, man, if there's something that you're feeling and you are realizing that it's not matching how you're acting, like that's something to sit with, to think about, and to try to fix and to pray through. All right, last one. And this is probably the coolest thing. It's one of the coolest Star Wars moments. And it just happened in the book. And it's at the moment where Leia is becoming one with the cosmic force, where she dies, right? And she is thinking internally about her legacy and her life. So who is Leia? She's a Skywalker by birth. Anakin is her father. She was adopted by Bail Organa, who you may remember from the original trilogy, who you may remember from like Clone Wars or Rebels, if you watched any of those shows. Like, he was one of the leaders of the burgeoning rebellion, general mastermind, you know, like all of these things to help these young rebels, like kind of the diplomat, right? And then she was a Solo. She married Han Solo, and she starts thinking and recalling her legacy, that she's passing on the Skywalker legacy, the legacy of the Jedi, of being a hero, of laying down your life for your friends. She's leaving that with Rey. The Organa legacy, the great diplomat, the war leader, the rebellion leader. She's leaving that with Poe. And then the Solo in her, she literally gives up her life to save her son, Ben Solo, from who he had become in Kylo Ren, right? So this gave me goosebumps when I read it, and it gave me goosebumps recording this, because it's like, what is my legacy? What is your legacy going to be? And a lot of people don't think about that until they're getting older, even if they're just on their deathbed. And some people don't have the chance to think about what legacy they're leaving behind and how they're passing down what they know and they have learned. And what I realized at this moment, at the end of Leia's life, she didn't realize this at the end of her life. She had been doing this for a very long time. She had known Rey for years and was molding and forming her and loving her. She had known Poe for even longer and was training him to lead the rebellion when she was gone. And she empowered him to do so even before she was. And then obviously she knew Ben his whole life because she's his mother. And she loved him and she wanted what is best for him. And she literally gave her life to give him his chance of redemption. And it hit me so hard, because it's like, what do I want my legacy to be? How am I passing down what I know and I have learned? Like, the whole term catechesis, it's like it's literally passing down to echo down what we have learned and what we have known. So how are we passing down to our kids, to the young people in our lives, to even our peers? How are we passing down our faith, our knowledge, our love of God, our love of neighbor? How are we passing that down, and what legacy are we going to leave when we are gone? So those are my 5 thoughts, my primary thoughts from the differences between the novelization and the movie of The Rise of Skywalker. If you have comments, questions, please leave them below. I do respond to all of them, as long as you are not a spammer. And if you're watching this long, you're not a spammer. So thank you so much for watching today. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to keep these coming. And as always, if you could share this with somebody that you think would enjoy it, who loves Star Wars, I would truly appreciate that as well. God bless. Peace.